Thank you very much for joining us today for this exciting webinar titled Protecting Mobile Apps Against Frida. My name is Jack Kerr and I'll be your host today. A few things to note before we get started. Please may I ask a few of you to raise your hand just to verify that everyone here can see us and you can hear us loud and clear. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Super quick. Appreciate it. Just so everybody's aware, listeners are automatically on mute for today's webinar. If you do have a question, please write it in the chat. And if we aren't able to answer your session immediately, we will follow up with you afterwards. So, joining us today, we have Jocelyn from eShard. Jocelyn, please say hello to our listeners.
Hello everyone. Super excited to be there and to discuss with you and Jan about Frida and about what we have done together.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Also joining us today is Jan from Appdome. Jan, would you like to say hello?
Hello everyone. My name is Jan. I am the mobile app defense evangelist here at Appdome, and I'm joining you from Singapore.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you both. Great to have you here. So let me set the problem that we're here to discuss today. Frida is one of the biggest challenges to mobile app protection, and there are many ways to use Frida, including standalone, in combination with other tools and systems, in shellcode, in gadget mode, and custom Frida modules. Jan and Jocelyn will discuss why you should protect against Frida and how to protect any Android and iOS apps from Frida. Jan, I understand you're going to start us off with a bit of background of why we need to protect our mobile apps from Frida.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jack, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Frida is many threats. Okay, it's a universe of threats. Jack just said Frida can be used in many different ways, including standalone, combination with other tools and systems, in shellcode, gadget mode, custom Frida modules. But there's a bigger problem. Frida is supported by a huge community of developers and hackers who continuously improve and expand on Frida. It is a very powerful tool, as we said. In the hands of a developer, it is used to analyze the mobile app, instrument the mobile app, give them a lot of powerful tools to improve on the experience that they're trying to build for the user of the mobile app. But in the hands of a hacker, the hacker really can use Frida to analyze and manipulate the behavior of the mobile apps. And that really is the biggest problem. And because Frida is supported by this community, this open source community of hackers and developers, Frida, in our opinion, is one of the biggest challenges to mobile apps and users out there. So Jack, if you can go to the next slide, please. There are many different reasons why to protect against Frida, and in the box here are some of them. But I would like to highlight my personal top 3 reasons to block Frida. And number 1 is the powerful dynamic instrumentation capabilities, the powerful dynamic instrumentation attacks that can be used against mobile apps. Hackers and fraudsters use Frida and toolkits like Frida to dynamically hook into an application, compromise the running process, and inject code in the workflow of a legitimate mobile app. And that gives hackers a huge amount of power to change the business logic of an application, force in-app actions, extract data, and alter the user experience for any user of the impacted app. The second element, or the second reason, is the ability to use Frida to run SSL bypass attacks on the app. So if you Google SSL bypass attack, one of the top results that you'll find is using Frida to launch these SSL certificate pinning bypass attacks against mobile apps. So what that does is it spoofs the trust manager into accepting any certificate, even a fake certificate, to complete the SSL handshake that normally takes place to establish trust between the mobile app and the web application server. And so by spoofing that and by spoofing the trust manager to accept any certificate, Frida can bypass Google safety data attestation and other ways, and it gives attackers a complete access to all of the data that is being transmitted between the app and the mobile backend. And the third part, and the third reason why I think you should use block Frida protections in your mobile app, is what Jocelyn is going to be talking about. Most pen testers will use tools like Frida in their pen test. So if you have failed a pen test, probably one of the reasons is that the user was the pen tester was able to use Frida to find vulnerabilities and exploit them. So if you have to pass a pen test in order to meet specific regulatory requirements or your internal audit requirements that you may have, or internal internal regulations that you've set up, blocking Frida in the app that you give to your pen testers is going to be a great way of ensuring that you can pass the pen test. And with that, Jocelyn, I'd like to pass the ball to you.
Thanks a lot. If we can go to the next slide. Yes, thanks a lot. So yes, indeed, when you are doing pen test, when we are doing automatic pen test with our tool, we do use Frida, and that's a very important tool, as you said, for developer, for pen tester, and obviously for hacker. But before diving into a little bit into what is Frida, how it works, because in the assistance, maybe some people are very aware of what Frida is, but some of them could just be aware about, they just want to make sure that they have a mobile app security at the right level, and they were not aware of Frida. When I was discussing with some of, in the market, with some of my prospects, I've heard a lot of them saying to me, okay, my application, my mobile app is just a vitrine, it's just presenting information, but nothing very important is in the mobile app. Everything that is very important is in my backend system. Behind API, and everything is super well protected, it's a fortress. And then I don't really need to take care of the mobile app security. And that's why it's also very important, and you express that clearly by saying that bypass SSL pinning, or being able to change the API behavior. It's very important to have that in mind, because obviously when you are able to change the behavior, and that will be the topic of discussion of today, of your app, then you might unlock a lot of things. And so the question I'm asking to the guy is, okay, what do you think is really important? What information are within your application, your mobile app, that you think that is not important? And obviously, you think right away about the personal information of the end users. If we can jump to the next slide, Jack, please. And that's true. It's name, bank account, and everything. It's obvious. But there is a lot of different assets that you have to secure in your mobile app, and that are going through the mobile app. Personal information, non-personal information, but also cryptographic information that you can get, password, token, and API access. So that's a lot of things that are in your application, and there is a lot of way to access this kind of information. If we go to the next slide, please. Oh, no, just before going to the next slide, I guess we should have launched a poll. I wanted to ask you, do you think in your mobile app, if you are a developer, a product owner, or someone that is interested in mobile app sec, in mobile application security, do you think that there is important assets that could be at risk in your mobile app? And I will leave you a few seconds to answer that, but that's very important. So if we go to the next slide, please. So basically, as I said, there is multiple way for the hackers to have attack vectors that are coming from different ways. Information could be stored in the app, so it could be at rest, it could be accessible at any time, but it could be also accessible only when the app is running. But that's still also information that you can get through Frida, for example, or other means. And obviously, there is all the interface to external elements like Bluetooth, NFC, but mainly the network on the API of the backend that could be also analyzed, read, and eventually tampered or modified. So that's all of these elements that you will need to secure at a point. And that's what we need to check if they are properly secure. If we go to the next slide. So if we jump a little bit in what is Frida, Frida, or most generally, code instrumentation. So instrumenting code means that you aim or you will like to change the behavior of an existing code by instrumenting the code. If we go to the next one, there is mainly two ways of doing that. Either you directly modify a part of the code to do something different. So you will modify the code and the execution will be different. And typically, at that moment, you could change the information that will be passed to the backend or that will be internally used. Or the second method, which is to change the way the execution flow will go. You will avoid some part of the code. And that's typically what you will try to do if you want to avoid some security mechanism, if you want to access to some part of the applications that are locked by a paying mechanism, for example, if we are talking about games, for example, a mobile game, then you will change this execution flow and you will avoid a part of it. Go to the next slide. So in a nutshell, how it works. You have your code that is in the mobile, the process of your code that is running, executed. Then you will try to attach a process to your code, to the exec. Then you will load and inject some code within, and then from that moment, you will be able to trace, patch, and hook the system at runtime. It could be great. As we said as an introduction, it's great when you are a developer and you want to debug your app. It's great when you are a pen tester and you want to validate that everything is working as expected. But obviously, it could be used by hackers that just want to understand how it works, how a system is working, generally speaking, and how they could access some information within your application and some information within the backend, as we say, typically with the API. If we go to the next slide. So that could be quite complex to do, to inject code and to use it and to make it. And why Frida and the multiple version of Frida are so popular right now is that it's a very easy tool for implementing code instrumentation. So it's super easy, or should not say super easy, I could not do it, but it's very easy to use and to develop complex hooking logic. So that's why it's such a threat. It's such a great tool. Again, it's a very great tool, very important tool, but it's also a very big threat because it's easy to use. It's really well documented on the net. And then from that point, a lot of people could just use it for bad purposes. So if we go to the next slide, it's how we should or could use Frida. And I will realize that as well to the testing we are doing on our side with our tool. So typically, the easiest way to do it is you will plug your phone on your computer. You will have a Frida server installed on the target device. The device needs to be rooted. And then you will run your app and you will install Frida. The second mechanism is you will attach Frida.exe or Frida library to your application, and you will still be plugged on the USB. And then there is a last way of using it possible, which is that everything is done on the device and you do not need to be plugged through USB cable to your laptop. All of that different elements, and there is multiple different steps in between. It's what your target app needs to check by itself to make sure that it will not be compromised by someone using Frida. So from the easiest one, which is on the left side, where you have your app plugged to a USB cable, you need to detect that to the right side of the screen, where you have everything that is within your device. Your app needs to detect if Frida is used and how it is used, and react to that. And all of that different step is what we have implemented in our testing tool. So you are able to check if your application is resilient against Frida attacks and to which level of resilience you are achieving. If we go to the next slide, please. In order to do that, what we suggest you to check is to check, and I'm sure that most of the people here around in this webinar are aware of that, but OWASP has developed a mobile application security standard, so MAS, they call that, which is a framework of security that helps you to check different levels of security and leverage that against their framework and check where you are sitting in different parts of security. And one of the important parts, especially if your app is mobile banking, finance, else dealing with important personal information, you need to have a layer that is called resilience. And what we discussed just right now about Frida is this layer of MASVS resilience, meaning that my app that is a perfectly good app that has its own purpose, is my app able to defend itself against reverse engineering? And that's very important to do, especially for this kind of let's say, application that need to be secured at the highest level. We are working closely with OWASP to make that evolve as well. And if we go to the next slide, please. And we have developed a tool to automate all of that testing, because obviously it's difficult. Today, if you have your application, you are able to test if your application is functional, delivering the standard output, what you were expecting, but you also need to have your application secured. And that's very difficult to assess. One of the ways to do that is a standard pen test. But another way to do that is to automate the pen test, or to do a preliminary pen test that will test a much larger spectrum of different tests. And that is including all the different Frida tests that you could do from your final APA or APK, so from your final binary, including the code that should be secured by design, all the third parties that you have added to your code to make sure that it's secure. And then using this tool, ESChecker, you will be in a position to say, yes, no, my application you will be able to assess on whether your application is secured or not. And that's what we have done with Appdome. We have started from an unprotected app. So we got a certain result, which was the result against reverse engineering protection, including Frida. That was at a certain level. And then we let run all the tests of the application. We deliver all these preliminary results to Appdome. They have been able to adjust the protection of the app to change that. And then we made a second round of tests, and the results were quite better. And then I guess I will hand over to you, Jan, to discuss about what you have done on your side from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for this very detailed overview, Jocelyn. What you see on the screen is what a typical experience our customers will go through. Okay. Our customers, when they are trying to pass a pen test, especially if they're using an external pen tester, and the pen tester does not tell them exactly all the tools they use, the customer will come to Appdome, say, we need to pass a pen test. Here is a report that we got. There's a set of vulnerabilities that were identified. And then we work with the pen tester to create a security model for that. If the pen tester, the external pen tester, does not tell the customer, hey, here's exactly all the tools we do, sometimes what happens is just what happened here when eShard was running their pen test, is that after the first run, they still have some findings. All it takes on Appdome is a configuration change in Appdome's UI, in Appdome's platform, say point and click user-driven UI, a platform where customers come on to choose the security model that's required. And then you make a configuration change based on that information, and then you run another test. And that work itself on doing an Appdome is literally a couple minutes of work. And so you come up with a new security model, you present that to the pen tester, and they go about. So what we're doing differently with eShard, we actually can circumvent that process much faster. So if you are an app maker and you are looking to do a pen test with your app, eShard will run that pen test, and then they will give you a recommendation, and it could be, hey, here's the findings, here's what you can go do to fix that. Or what they'll say is, we also have a partner, Appdome, that we can recommend to you. And with Appdome, we will address and fix those vulnerabilities within minutes. And then most customers come back and go like, wow, you mean I don't have to do any work? Because frankly, I've got a backlog of things that our engineering team has to do, and they don't necessarily have all the resources to address all of the findings that you had. You can get this fixed literally in minutes. And eShard says yes. So eShard, the customer, and Appdome together, we work on building a security model for that customer. And this is in a free trial, in a proof of value, okay, where we work on doing that. Customer does the build, they sign the app, they download the secure version of the app, they give it to eShard, and eShard, within the time it takes them to run this through ES-Checker, will then provide the customer with a report, as you would see in the Appdome 2 test, where all of the found vulnerabilities have been addressed. And so, Jack, if you can go to the next slide, how is that done? Yes, please, Jocelyn.
No, you mentioned how long it takes, an hour.
Yeah, so an hour, so literally, so now end-to-end delivery, so discovery of vulnerabilities plus delivery of the solution is an hour. Because on Appdome, it's literally minutes, and then ES-Checker is about an hour. So within an hour, you can get a complete secure app that will pass the pen test that you need to pass in order to achieve the regulatory requirements, to get the check mark from your internal audit team, whatever your requirements are, where you need to pass the pen test, that can be achieved on Appdome, literally on Appdome and an eShard together, literally in an hour or less. Okay. The Appdome platform, as I said earlier, is a very simple to use point and click UI. What you see here is the point and click area within our block Frida protections. So you turn on block Frida, you can then customize the compromise notification. You can turn on other things. You can block custom Frida. You can do other elements. And this is probably not done just Frida only, but you do that together with preventing the use of your app on a jailbroken or rooted device. You want to probably protect the app against man-in-the-middle attacks. You may want to encrypt data stored in the application sandbox. You may want to obfuscate the code of the app. Again, eShard will tell you, here are the findings that we had against your app, and here's what you need to go do to then use that on Appdome. And again, every build on Appdome, every feature on Appdome has a very, very extensive KB article, knowledge base set of articles. And so here we talk about, again, what is Frida? Just what we talked about in this webinar today. How does Appdome protect against Frida instrumentation exploits? It's very, very detailed inside of the mobile app. So Jack, next slide, please. So what is an Appdome? Okay, so we talked about this earlier. So Appdome is a mobile app defense solution. It's your one-stop shop for mobile app defense. You would come to the Appdome platform on the top left over there. You would select the security model that is required to achieve your outcome. And again, if you're looking to pass a pen test in order to achieve compliances, you would come through a pen testing partner like eShard, or you have your own pen testing provider, but they will have already provided you with a report that says, here's the set of vulnerabilities, and you need to fix that in order to achieve compliance with whatever element you're looking for. Okay, so next point, Jack, if you can move the slide a little bit. Another thing that you get on Appdome is a certified secure certificate. This is an artifact of proof. So now going forward, so eShard has done the final pen test against your secured app, and they have validated that, yep, all of the protections that you were looking for are indeed in the app, and we validate that the app achieves all of your requirements and that you've passed your pen test so that you can get to you can be compliant with whatever element that you need to be compliant with. Now, that is what we call a security model. You've versioned your security model in order to achieve this outcome. Now, Appdome will provide you, going forward, build by build, release by release, with this artifact of proof, with this certified secure certificate that now you have every time when you release a new version of your app. You already get a certificate from Appdome that if you use the specific security model that was tested and validated by eShard, to use that specific security model, your app is protected. Okay? Build by build, release by release, you get this. So Appdome becomes your security system of record. So next thing, Jack, if you go to the top right, where this is really important, is not only will eShard have given you, they've tested and validated that the security in the app is indeed there and the app is protected, you get a certified secure certificate to do so, but then Appdome provides you with proof in production that the protections are indeed in the app and that the app remains, that those protections are effective. So that's everything that you see in the green boxes. But in addition to that, Appdome's threat scope, which is a mobile XDR solution, Appdome's threat scope can also point out to you threats and attacks that your app is under that you are not protected against. And I want to be very clear, okay? A pen test will only find vulnerabilities inside of the app where you didn't do specific things. If somebody is using a specific or a new tool, a new malware, that is not part of the scope of the pen test, that will not show up in the report of the pen test. So you don't know. Well, Appdome's threat scope mobile XDR solution will show you all the threats and attacks your attack is under that you're currently not protecting against. So now you find out, oh, we're also under attack of XYZ accessibility services malware or code injection, or somebody's using Android debug bridge against the app, or whatever that is. And if that is not part of the scope of the pen test, it won't show up in a pen test report. It will show up in Appdome's threat scope mobile XDR solution. And so then you can make a data-driven decision if you want to version your security model to add those as well. And then the last thing, which you see on the bottom right there, Appdome also offers a framework, a UI framework, to allow you and to help you to better communicate with your customers when bad things happen. So that's a quick overview of Appdome. Thank you for listening to me. Jocelyn, what is eShard really doing today?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Jan, for this explanation, and yeah, for the audience here. So what is eShard doing? So we do first what we discussed today. We provide ESChecker, which is an automated tool. It's a MAST or DAST, so it's doing dynamic application security testing of your iOS and Android application. We built that because we were having already services of pen testing of mobile app and training also. And we expand that to this automated module. And as you explained, it's very important because it helps you to very quickly have an overview of all the security risk, and you can manage that before going to a proper pen test if you wish or if you need by certification. But eShard is more than that. So that's what I'm leading today. It's the mobile AppSec part, the mobile security part. But then we are also providing chip security testing, so what we call IC security, where that's where we came from. It's where you will test and validate piece of hardware against different type of attack, like side channel or fault injection. And we provide also bench or lab test equipment to handle this kind of testing. And we provide, of course, the service around that. And the last part, which could be also interesting for some of you here, is system security forensic, where we provide a tool and a solution that is helping a vulnerability researcher or to perform malware analysis and to perform time-based reverse engineering. So that's mainly something that we deal with government or national and security agency. So that's what eShard is doing globally in a nutshell, to scale security testing for every part of the software world and the hardware world.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Jan. Really appreciate the feedback. We do have some questions from the listeners, which is always great. So I'll start. Please, if you haven't already submitted your questions to the Q&A, we have some time, so please submit them and we'll get through as many as we can. So the first one is for eShard. Let me just make sure I read it out right. How many applications have you seen properly protected against Frida?
Well, obviously, I will not be able to disclose all the information what we have done, but we have published last year a report regarding the mobile banking industry or the bank industry, where we tested about more than 100 mobile banking application, and it was quite surprising for us and for the market to see that very few of these applications were protected against Frida. So out of this 100 plus application, just few of them were properly protected against Frida, which means that there is still a lot to do, especially in Europe, to make sure that the application are reaching the right security level. Thank you,
Jocelyn. We have another. Yes, the next one here. The next one here is for Jan. An Appdome, and it is, how quickly can I change the security configurations of my mobile app in Appdome?
Great question. Thank you. Seconds, literally. It is a point and click UI. And so on Appdome, one of the key benefits you get is that you can use developer best practices to building security in your mobile app. And what do? Developers iterate, developers build new versions of the app, developers have an agile, rapid development process. And with Appdome, you can use those best practices and apply them to building security. So as a cyber team, you have full control, visibility management, and control over the security in the app. And the developers, all they see is an API call inside of their existing DevOps workflows. Appdome fully connects to CI/CD tools, Azure DevOps, Bitrise, GitHub, GitLab, Circle CI, Jenkins, any tool that you are out there. Appdome connects to them with a connector And so all the developers see is an API call. So the cyber team, if you're using ThreatScope Mobile XDR and you see a new threat emerge on the horizon, you can now immediately make a versioning, immediately version your security model. And the next time that the developers execute the API call to Appdome as part of their dev process, that new security model will be completed and will have been built into the mobile app. So again, no work for the developers, none whatsoever. It is fully part of their existing DevOps workflow, and it literally takes seconds for the cyber team to make that configuration change.
Thank you, Jan. We do have a couple more, so I'm just going to run through them. So one for Jan at Appdome. I believe we already answered this, but we'll go through it. Does Appdome only detect official Frida or custom Frida also?
Appdome detects all types of Frida. So if you go into the knowledge base article on how does Appdome protect against Frida, there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands, Jocelyn, would you agree, different versions and iterations of Frida out there. Appdome looks for the methods and tools that Frida uses. Appdome doesn't look for threat signatures or anything else, but it detects the methods and the tools used by Frida to hook into an app or to instrument the app or anything else. And so it doesn't really matter how many custom Frida toolkits have been created by the community out there. Appdome detects and protects against all of them.
Just to add on top of that, for information, when we have run the test with Appdome, in our side we also use Frida standard version, but also modified version of Frida by ourselves to make sure that we make it harder for the test, and that has been detected. So could be a stronger Frida or other variants or version of Frida. They should be tested and detected, and that's what we do also on our side in the testing part.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
I think we have time for one more. So I'll take the top one. This will be for both of you. Why protect my app if my backend is secure and validates everything coming in and out? So,
well, that's I guess I will take that one, but I will let obviously Jan complete. But I guess that's very important. Typically what we say at the very beginning is your backend could be very well protected. But the question you have to ask to yourself, Bassam, is what is going through your app? What is available within the app at a point? And all of that information, and not only personal information, but also all the cryptographic elements, the security elements, eventually the intellectual property, so the way your code is created, is all of that is relying within your application. What is the value of that asset? If you think that everything that is going through the app is not having any value, then in that case, yes, if you secure properly your backend, you will be great. You will be doing just great. But otherwise, at the moment, you have information that are going through your app that could be used against your backend. You have to think that someone might understand how it works from the app, from the information that are in transit in the app or at rest in the app. And then from that point, they will be able to understand how you work with your backend. And at that point, they will be eventually able to break your backend because they will go through an official mean, which is the mobile app, to go to your backend and eventually to modify some information. So that's why securing the mobile app is not sufficient. Securing the backend is not sufficient. You need to do both. If you just do once, then you leave open one security threat. Even if your backend is super well secured and the API are very well secured, you also need to secure your mobile app. Jan, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I want to add a business reason to the deep technical reasons you shared, Jocelyn. The business reason is very, very straightforward. Every year, Appdome runs a survey, consumer survey, on expectations consumers have on mobile app security. And this is a global survey. What we've found, and what I find is the most interesting part, what we have found is that consumers around the world are preferring mobile apps over web apps by a factor of 3 to 4. Okay, so a majority of consumers around the world, and here in Asia Pacific, it is 58% of consumers, are preferring mobile apps over any other digital channel. Now, if as a brand you want to be cyber resilient, it is absolutely imperative that you protect and invest your cyber resources, do your cyber investments, not only on what you consider the edge of your network, but also there where your revenues are coming from, there where your customers are engaging with your brand. And overwhelmingly around the world, consumers have spoken, they want to engage with brands via the mobile app. So a brand, in order for a brand to call itself cyber resilient, it needs to match its cyber investments to where their users are and where their revenues are coming from. And in today's world, that is mobile.
Thank you both. Thank you for the questions. I apologize if we haven't got to all of your questions. As I said, we will be following up. I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. Jocelyn, Jan, any closing remarks?
Jan, go on.
I think we made a very, very compelling case here today that protecting your mobile app is very critical. Again, I'd like to thank you for joining. I saw earlier in the polls that everybody here believes that Frida is a very big threat factor and that protecting against Frida is important. What I hope that you walk away from is that you understand that there is an easy, fast, rapid solution to protect against Frida. And then together with a pen testing partner like eShard, you really can feel and rest assured that you are protecting your mobile apps and your consumers against this threat vector. Jocelyn?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Jack. Thanks a lot, Jan. I was super happy to participate with you to this discussion about Frida. I know that for some of you around there, it might have been not deep enough or perhaps too deep enough. It's difficult to find the right theme. And I hope you get a good overview of why and what are the threats that are coming out of Frida. And if there is one element that I would like you to keep in mind or to take away, is that seeing that mobile app security is transparent. And if you don't want to be blind, it's super important to test your app, and then you will see if you need or not to secure your app, and you will make your decision with a real knowledge of what is going on, and then based on that you will be able to assert if you want to be secured or not. So that's a very critical part, just to know if your mobile app is secured or not. It's a critical part to go through before going even further by securing with Appdome, for example. So thanks a lot, guys, for allowing me to join with you, and it was a really great discussion.
Absolute pleasure, Jocelyn. Thank you to both of you for joining us today. So to everybody, that's a wrap. If you're interested in learning more either about eShard, Appdome, or both, there is a poll on your screen that you can answer, and we'll be in touch with you straight away. We will be doing more of these webinars to help making mobile apps more secure. It's as easy as that, and making it easier for everyone. So I want to thank you all for your time today. Thank you to our speakers, Jocelyn and Jan, and thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.